crazy trip to the Allentown Museum. Didn't see much art, ate lunch, and cleaned out the gift shop. That's our report. So, hi.
Hi.
Woo! I don't know this.
You didn't have to run, it's okay.
Pardon me?
You didn't have to run, it's okay.
Oh, okay. I'm an on-time person and I'm late, which is not my thing. So, hi, Rosie. So what happens here? What happens here? What happens to me here? Somebody tell me. Thank you. And?
It's a Q&A.
Q&A.
So
What?
who wants to go first? Man in the back.
Good. Hey, yeah, I'd like to ask, when you were filming for rehearsals, what did you do table reads like you would do today, or did you just show up to the set before filming and just try it a few times and then you shoot it?
Where'd you get your costume?
I made it.
Oh! And now what unit are you in with that black sleeve?
Oh, this is purple.
Oh, it looks black from here.
Yeah. Oh, it's the lighting in here is terrible.
Now, do you have an industrial zipper down the sleeve?
I can't. See, it does open.
I've got to tell you, that zipper was so cold in the morning.
This morning it was very cold.
6 o'clock in the morning in England, it's cold.
Oh, wow.
So we used to put it on the radiator.
Oh, you're kidding, really?
What do they
Because
call
the
it?
zippers,
Stove.
yeah, the zippers are
But it was
cold.
a radiator.
Yeah.
So then it would get too hot. So we put it there and kind of figure out when to put it on. So your question, no, we did not have,
Table read.
I don't think we had time for, I'm not sure about table readings. We'd get the script, read it. No, but we ran lines, all the actors, we were all happy to run lines. You know, Nick mentioned that earlier. This question of running lines is life's blood when you're doing television. So you don't have much time. I depend on what show for a table reading. But you're going to do the next scene. Let's run the lines, let's run the line. So you're in some corner somewhere, just so you kind of did them once with this person before you do it. And a rehearsal, again, mostly in television, film you have a little more time, is a camera rehearsal primarily. It has nothing to do with the acting. Go here, go there, cut, done. So how to fill that in, at least let's hear the other actor's voice once. At least let's look in their face and say something, whatever it may be. So yes, we're more dependent on that experience than a table read. You're shooting a 3-act, you know, a 3-camera thing, and you're running through the whole thing, a different kind of process. You gotta kind of be game for whatever shows up and jump in, cross your fingers, and rely on some experience or craft in the other actor, the other person. The director primarily is busy. Most television directors, most directors in general don't have a big understanding of the actor's process. Directors are interested in results, and we're interested in process. And it's an odd combination, how to negotiate those two. The languages are different.
It's like creativity versus production.
I'm sorry, hard to hear you.
It's like creativity versus production.
It's both. The director's creative as well, but his thinking is different than how to get to it. He wants it. He doesn't care how you get to it. Just get it. Fast. Good. Yay. And that's understandable because the pressure is on him. And now, it was a different situation with space because Sir Lowe, before he was Lord Lowe, to make that distinction, he wrote the check. He never came on the set. He never gave us notes. I had worked in American television for CBS, who didn't produce it, but who bought it. They were on the set all the time. They had notes. They had demands. Their presence was, in the morning, you'd hear something, we make jokes. I love the set, I hate the set. But the same person before the day was out. So there was, or set or whatever it was. So it was a different presence. There was a freedom in doing this show because there was no presence of the man who wrote the check, and it was one person, also not a committee. So Jerry and Sylvia were given pretty free rein because of their history. So we had a long shooting schedule, and as I said before, a gigantic standing set, which had its problems. But so it was very different. It was also different to be finished at 5:20 every day. Unheard of in American television. And personally, that was one of the reasons I was interested, because I'm not so sure my kids wanted me around at dinner every night. But I didn't want to miss those years. And they were kind of they're all critical years if you have kids. You'll notice that. And it never stops, even they're grown-up people. But given that, I would have not been home if I were shooting American television, never for dinner. I lucked out maybe once a week. And in England, again, at that time, you shot 5:20 every night. And if we wanted to go late, it was one day a week, Friday night, an extra 20 minutes. They'd say they're going to call the quarter, another 20 minutes during the week, up till 8 on Friday night. And it wasn't decided by the production people. They had to go around to each man. It wasn't a consensus, and if one, and I say men because most of the entire crew I think was men, if it were at the time. If one person said, "Oh no, I'm having dinner with me mum," we didn't shoot. So I knew I was going to be home with my kids, who were really excited about seeing me every night, I'm sure. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if any of that ramble tells you what you asked me.
It does. Thank you.
I'll try to be clearer. Yes, sir.
If
Another one of those uniforms.
Another one of those uniforms. Yeah. Zippers
No
are-
zipper?
Yeah, got the zipper on.
Got the zipper.
Like to.
Put it on and it was cold.
A little cold, yeah.
Yeah, come on. Tell me.
If
Yes.
if Space had continued for a third year, are there any changes you would like to have seen in it?
Well, any evolving that one does, it might have been revealed a little more in terms of my own character, what my background was. I sort of made that up. I decided, maybe I've had a conversation with Jerry or not, I decided, why is this woman up there with all those people running this big... And so I decided that her father was a medical person and he had cured cancer. And I was trying to beat that. Gave me a little ambition and some thinking. I don't know what that generated, but that was my idea. I can't tell you. I don't know. Just obviously things would evolve. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, fine, thank you. Which season do you prefer personally?
Oh, you know, when I'm asked that about anything I've ever done, honey, I don't know. When you're doing it, you're just passionately embracing that thing. And then that's like a bromance, and it's bye, honey. I mean, you love them. They're like kids. People say that, and it's true. The kind of investment you have to put into anything is pretty deep. So whatever it is. I come from a time, and you can tell I've been here a while in this world, that you were kind of pledged somehow to do your best. That was your idea in life. You had to do your best. I picked this up and do the best, whatever it is. By the way, I'm still not doing my best on this stuff. But whatever you did, you were supposed to do your best at it. And because of that effort and that involvement, it's hard to then evaluate it. I like this one better than that one. I can't do that. I love them all, is what I'm probably trying to say. Yeah?
I don't know how many of your children went into the business, but did you have advice or don't go in?
No, I would never say that to anybody. You know, I was very, very annoyed. Never told them, with Olivier, one of the great actors of that generation, who discouraged his kids, his son particularly, to never become an actor. And I thought, you know, that's saying a lie to your life. Why would I say to somebody who had this extraordinary life, don't do what I do. I would say you have certain kind of trepidation about anything they do. You want them to enjoy it, you want them to do well, you know the problems in the business. Kids who grow up in it have a better idea about the ups and downs than the kid who gets on a bus and comes to Hollywood thinking it's all just, you know, because they've heard the funny phone calls at dinner time, or that didn't work out, or this fell apart. They have a little more. Given all of that, I would never dissuade anybody from doing anything they are passionate about doing, because if you need a passion in life, and whatever it is, if the only reason to act is that you want to so badly that you want to do it, no matter what the stakes are and what you know, I started as a dancer, and it's a similar kind of thing. You just want to dance. I'm still taking class 3 times a week. And I guess it was Labor Day weekend, I went to class, I crawled all these steps, and it said no class for the holiday? What? The first time in my life that there wasn't a dance class. We used to have class on Christmas Eve. I mean, you had a class, because you had to keep pleading or else, you know? So that's what I know about. Whatever you really, when it gets me to get there on a holiday and find out it's closed, if you have that for whatever it is except murder, and mayhem, you know, I would encourage you. That's all. So I couldn't say no to anything like that. Yeah. That would be awful to do to a person, I think. First of all, is the rest of the world so steady? Go get a job in the corporate world, you're going to be really secure. Because that's mostly what people worry about. It's the security of the acting profession. Anyway, that's my answer to that.
Anyone else? Okay, in the back.
Sir,
When I was growing up, my dad had asked me if I wanted to watch Space 1999, and I told him no, I really didn't feel like it.
you'd rather what?
When my dad asked me,
Yeah,
if
I heard
wanted to
that
watch-
part. You said no.
I said no. But then he told me, he says, well, Roland Hand is in it and Cinnamon is in it. And then I said, you got me.
Thank you. That's hysterical. Roland Hand, whose name came about, by the way, I don't know if anybody knows, when the script was originally written for Martin, not me, I came in second in it, the character's name was Martin Land. And the network said that's too close to his name, so they fit in whatever fit in the type space. Made it easier for the copies of the script. Roland Hand fit in the same number of spaces. That's how that came about. Cinnamon, I think is self-explanatory. You know, a little spice. Yeah.
This actually segues in nicely. I wanted to ask if you have any fond memories or stories about your time at Mission.
Oh, Lord, just so many I wouldn't begin to know. It was a glorious time. And I was very young and very lucky in many ways. You know, that experience came out of an acting class. Again, going back to how you prepare for something or what you care about and how much you were willing to invest in it. We were all in an acting class together, and Bruce Geller wrote that script for us out of seeing us in that class. It was a class that Martin was teaching. We had first come to Los Angeles from New York with a national tour of a play. And we're headed back to New York, of course. We were New York actors, please. Tiny bit obnoxious. And he started this class, and he had writers in it, because he wanted writers to see what the actor's process was. We're always interested in that. And Bobby Town was in it, who then wrote Chinatown. Jack Nicholson was in it. Do I have to explain Jack? I couldn't then. I couldn't then. Darling, a kid. He was a kid. We were all kids. So Bruce wrote this whole thing with Martin Land playing Man of 1,000 Faces, because of actor. And then he wrote me, and he said he really didn't really realize as he wrote it that he wrote in, if she was called the girl at first, because he wanted something that was different for Hollywood at the time. It was hard to find. You were either the nice wife and stir the pot, yes dear, no dear, or you were the dance hall girl, kind of wicked. Okay, they wanted both. He wanted to write an intelligent woman who had a little cinnamon, a little spice. And that was very unusual in Hollywood at the time. Probably one of the most rewarding things about it, for me, to this day, women write, they're women now, they were girls then, write me or stop me in a market or in the street somewhere and tell me, I just retired from NASA. And I got the idea that I could do something in this world from watching you on that show. That's just incredible to me. Because evidently it was hard for young women to see themselves in any kind of other than, you know, those two cliches. So anyway, I can't even measure that. That was very important. Now, though, again, I didn't think of it that way. I just thought, okay, now, and then Bruce was because he knew my work as an actress, he wrote that part within a part where I was playing something else. Well, come on. How can you not win an Emmy? I'm the only person in that turf playing a different role every week. It was an unfair competition, frankly, to the other actors who had to play that same role every week. So I had these double role every week, the one everybody liked to kind of think about, that fantasy woman, and then the poor thing, you know, all of it. So there was no way to tell you what that was. That was just glory for an actress. Let alone, Bruce was a meticulous producer. And he hired a man who had written the book on lighting in film called John Alton. His book is still used at the university. He was in retirement. He was living in Rome, and he got him out of retirement to light that pilot. And what he told him, John did a shot of me, and Bruce said, I don't want her ever to look less than that. And every camera person who came on afterwards had to look at that shot. Where do you possibly get that kind of attention? Well, you see the effect it had. I looked better than I ever looked in my life, no matter what, on that film. And Bruce would say, I don't care if we're in a tunnel. I want a high, hot key on her and let the film students worry about the light source. So, come on. I mean, every element of it was unexpected and glorious. And again, I'm not sure I answered that question, but I sure did rattle on, so, yeah.
So you told us what your idea of Helena's backstory was. Did you have an idea of what Cinnamon's backstory was?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I identified with, I was a young girl right out of school who thought I could do anything. It never occurred to me that I couldn't, that I wouldn't make my way in the world. Never thought of it. Isn't that funny, how arrogant I must have been? But it was a time. It was right after, well, you know, it was a long time ago. The kids today don't come out of school quite with that, I don't think, because the turf is very hard. So I didn't think for a minute that I could do whatever I wanted to do. So I had a little bit of that kind of, it was pretty close to my own nature is what I'm saying. Except that I didn't spend my life kind of intriguing the boys. That wasn't on my particular list of things. But that was what was written, and then I could seem to be able to do pretty well, so I don't know. Yes, but I don't really know how to tell you now. It's quite a long time ago. And I had modeled, which is she was written as a model. I'd gone to New York, and somebody talked to me, and I walked into a model agency, all very fascinating, really. They were willing to pay me, I think at the time, $50 an hour, which is what I could make a week with my degree.
Yeah.
Think about that. Now, I was a very serious young woman, and I sat there and thought, now which do I want to do? It was, well, obviously, dummy, go save the world, or go make all this money and buy shoes. I mean, it was like, I was very young, and it was hard. It was a little bit of a difficult dilemma, considering I'm kind of very serious person. But they wanted to pay me that much money to stand there in front of a camera. Okay, I'll try that. I found it, and it paid for my dance lessons, because I went to New York to study with Graham. Very serious stuff. And that's how all that started. Now, the actual truth about any of this, by the way, I will tell you. You want to hear a personal story?
Yes.
I was academically streamed. I was very smart in school, and I was finished my work in 10 minutes, all through grade school. I'd help everybody else, but I never felt like I did anything. It was so easy for me that it didn't feel like much of anything. Then I got to university, and I had a PE class. I hated the uniform. The uniform was ungodly ugly. And I was damned if I was going to wear that uniform. So I walked down the hall and found a dance, first time I ever danced. It was called Orchesis. It was so exotic, this word, Orchesis. And we danced barefoot to very, I don't know, it all seemed so, and I fell in love. Hating that dance uniform is the reason I'm here today. Gym uniform, truly. It just changed my life. And then it was not easy, by the way, which is why I liked it. And then when I stepped the same thing into acting, that wasn't easy. A year and a half in class before I ever went out for any role, and got the first 3 jobs I ever read for, and never stopped working. But that year and a half, it was hard, and I liked that it was hard because everything else was so easy, and everybody was fussy, and I felt like I hadn't done anything. So it was a kind of odd, a little perverse, obviously. I wanted it to be hard and then accomplish something. Otherwise, I felt it was, I'd do everybody's term papers, and I still had time. It's an odd thing to complain about, if you think about it in retrospect. Recently, in regard to this whole life aspect, I picked up the newspaper. I was doing something, and I'm reading the paper every morning, and I see the want ads, and I thought, I haven't looked at want ads in years, and I turned the thing, and I read all this, and I thought I couldn't apply for one of those jobs. There's nothing. I would never get hired. And I thought, wow, I'm totally inept. There's nothing here I can do anymore. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because when I read them when I was a kid, I could do that, I could do that, Well, I couldn't do any of it anymore, is what it's turned out. But fortunately for that gym uniform, which turned my life around, because I literally fell in love with dance. It was my first love. I'm still dancing. Who would have thought? So I have to tell you my gym uniform story. I've never told it quite the same way. I'm a little embarrassed now that I have, but go ahead. Don't ask me anything else. Yeah? Yes, sir.
Earlier you were telling the story with the Sylvia Anderson and the wasabi. What other humorous moments do you have from the sets?
Oh, from the set?
Yes.
Well, one was with, I think Martin used to tell this much better than I did. Charlie Crichton was a great, wonderful British director. He was actually a Scot, and he would tell you that, so don't mess around and call him a Brit. But he was a grumpy guy who was the sweetest guy in the world, but he kind of presented himself like, Well, we had the set, I guess, I don't know the name of the show.
Space Break.
When the main mission filled up with foam.
Space Break.
What's it called?
Space Brain.
Thank you. You guys know everything. Okay. Charlie, that was not easy to shoot in that big place. And Charlie was over somewhere over there, and we were over here, and he had a mic, and he read that stuff, and he started yelling, "Stop the phone!" And the phone kept coming, and Charlie was disappearing. And he was yelling, "Stop the phone!" And kept rising and rising, and pretty soon, Charlie was like, "I stop!" No, we were finished. Nick will tell you about that too, probably. Maybe a little bit of it. We've never stopped laughing because you're not supposed to laugh under that phone. It's supposed to be terrorizing. There was Charlie yelling, "Stop!" He later on, after Mission, did a film called A Fish Called Wanda, which is a wonderful film. And he had come from the Ealing days. If you know any film history, they had done all those black and white comedies that were brilliant with Alec Guinness. So Charlie was exceedingly special person, and we never let him off the hook. We kept saying afterwards, "Stop the phone!" Which he had no control over. That's one that comes immediately to mind, certainly. Another one came when we played I have a picture of it somewhere today, The Cave Woman. I happened to come home in makeup for some reason. And my daughter had brought a boy home. One of the first, because she was in 8th grade or 9th. Anyway, I've never been forgiven for that. Not a good idea. This is my mom. I hadn't thought of that in a while. That's not good. Thank you for asking. I'm going to remind Susie of that today. Oh well, we got through it. Pardon me. It's hard to be forgiven by a teenager, by the way. So, see, that's why I wanted to be there for my kids, like I said before. So I could go wearing ape lady costume. I had to go up in the dressing room and try to make up some noises for her, by the way, at lunch, because I had no idea how she was going to grunt or what kind of noises she was going to make. One doesn't generally spend the time making a lexicon of noises. So I went up into the dressing room and made noises at lunch so I wouldn't surprise myself after lunch. The other thing I ought to tell you guys about the dressing room, which is also kind of funny. The first day I arrived there, and they took me out to Pinewood, there were a bunch of men in this dressing room, and they told me they were chippies, which meant carpenters. I found that out the first day. And they were building, and I said, "What are you guys building?" And they said, "A bar." Rosie knows I don't drink. I never have since college. I couldn't, it's just not work with me too well. And everybody thinks I'm an alcoholic. No, I just don't drink. Anyway, I said, "A bar?" "Well, they said you want a bar." I wanted a ballet bar. Figured they're out there building this thing for this American actress who drinks a lot. We're going to give them a fully stocked bar. So I said, "Oh, just get a dowel." And press it along, just like a little. Anyway, that was a bar. Making me a bar, which was lovely. Not what I had in mind. Again, those are little, whatever they are, stories of my life. Yes. Anything else? Have we done it all? Yes, I know there are. Hi.
I read that you were going to make a film with Ed Asner called The Instigator. I liked the Facebook page because the theme of the film interested me, but I never heard anything further about it.
Well, it's one of those fun things that goes on in Hollywood, where it is a very good script, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And Ed and I had made a short picture, it's very nice, sometime prior to that. It's a very good script. They had it financed. That fell apart. It's still in the process. It could happen because the subject's very interesting. Very. So, but I haven't, at this moment, it's not, as they call it, green lighted. I think that has to do, we can drive through the intersection. but it hasn't been. It ain't driving through the intersection yet. I hope so. It could well be, because they keep trying to get it done. Yeah. Okay. Anybody tell me, Mr. Rosie?
After you became so famous, after Mission Impossible,
Yes.
how do you retain your soul?
So this is Philosophy 101. You know, it ain't easy, kiddo. It's an interesting question, actually, and very hard to really respond to. It's something I'm very aware of with young girls in Hollywood, by the way, and I've always kind of tried to, when they ask me questions, the hard thing to do in that situation, the whole turf, is to hang on to yourself. That's really hard to do, because you're getting all this information. You're too tall, you're too thin, change your hair, if only you were this, if only you were that. You don't get the part for those reasons, so they say. They really just want to get you out of the room. None of it matters. And I try to explain, don't ingest that. Don't take it into yourself and go fix yourself and change yourself, because it's a fool's game. How to hang on to who you are is critical, because that's what you act out of. Your own nature, you have to keep investigating who you are, not in reference to those things. It's not easy for most people. I don't know why, other than to try to keep that somewhat of a separation. And it's not easy to do. I mean, sitting up here and thinking, talking to you people, and you're listening to me, is in itself kind of astonishing to me, and remains astonishing to me in some way. I don't know if any of that's clear, but it's a kind of odd, all this stuff is written about you, all these people keep taking pictures of me. I have rooms full of pictures of me. Why does anybody have rooms full of pictures of themselves? One wonders, you know. If you have a little bit of a, I guess, philosophical bent, you can kind of step back a little bit and not get caught up in it. Not get caught up in what, I mean, what people write about you, which is all these fantastic adjectives. Really, you know, there needs to, it's hard, I must tell you, because it comes at you big and strong. Gotta hang on to yourself is all I can tell you, and I don't know what that means to everybody, but I know what it meant to me. You know, I came from the Midwest with incredibly moral parents, and in spite of the fact that I knew they were wrong about everything, turned out they were right about everything, which really still pisses me off. At this age, I'm doing what my mother told me to do. Come on. But, you know, that laid a basis for certain kinds of understanding of not misunderstanding your press, or not, just take it easier, girl. Don't get too caught up in it. It's hard. It's not easy, because it's odd. I can tell you, it is odd. And that was not my plan in life. I didn't start out thinking, oh, someday I'm going to be famous. A lot of kids do, by the way. One time I heard recently that they did a survey of young children and what did they want to be when they grow up. It's really a terrible answer. They wanted to be in a TV commercial. That's not a great goal. And it kind of hurts to hear that from a generation. You know, I'm a reader. I've been reading my whole life. I don't know, you gotta have other things to know to count on and think about than just your name in the paper. Those, I can't really explain it. I don't know if I've said anything of value, but.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it is really odd. You know, it's just a different way to live. On the other hand, it's been glorious for me. So I have no complaints. Not a complaint in the universe. Imagine being 108 and no complaints. Even my knees don't hurt or my hips don't hurt, so I have no complaints. Anyway, now we're getting too personal. Yes?
A friend of mine met you a few years ago. And you were doing theater. I looked for it, I couldn't find it on the internet. Are you still doing theater?
Yes.
How do you find it?
I don't know. I have no idea. Again, I'm not good at that part of it. Yes, I'm doing it in terms of directing. I love being around. I do a Young Playwrights Festival every year for the Blank Theater. Wasn't able to do one this year. 12 years in a row, I've worked with these young kids, come in from all over the country. They've sent a play in. They're in maybe high school. By the time they're 20, they're old for the contest. But we're trying to encourage playwriting. And it's an incredible process that they do. They have a professional director, actors. They get an actual bare bones, but production, not a reading, in a theater, 4 nights in a row, 4 performances. They get a chance to see their work up. And I started at maybe, 12 years ago, I guess, because I've done it for 12 years. That figures out. See, my math does work. I give it a chance. Because I wanted to know what young people are thinking about and writing about. And then I found out, same stuff, sex, parents, death, cars, I mean, same old stuff that everybody's always been thinking about. But they're so talented, these kids. They're so talented. And then they have the kids from all over the area come in as techies. And they come in from theater departments. They think they know everything. They know nothing the first day. And by the end of the 4-week festival, they could run any theater anywhere. And it's very moving to see that progress for them. And so I like to do that, certainly. And then any other, I like to do small productions, small theater. And I'm working with the actors, and I can really get a sense of the play. And I'm still acting, which is another excitement at this point. That I have some nice things that I did this last, while, and I enjoy every one of them. So life is good. I'm doing what I want to do still. That's not, ordinary, but it's great. So I'm having a good time with that. I still can't complain, see?
You were superb in the episode on Code Black.
Code Black, yes. Say that again. What'd you say?
You were superb.
Superb.
Oh, superb! I didn't hear that. That's what I actually didn't. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That was very interesting and that was a fun thing because I was supposed to have this previous memory that kept recurring about the man that I loved in my life, who I began to think was Rob Lowe. Which the episode ended with Rob Lowe kissing me before I died to make it all perfect, right? So everybody was going crazy because Rob Lowe was going to kiss me. Well, I wasn't going that crazy, but never mind. He wouldn't even run the lines before we did the show, so never mind. So anyway, thank you. It was fun to do, and it was very exciting. Now that one, we did have a read-through of the whole script, but he was way the hell over there somewhere by a big long table, and we never ran lines. But thank you. It was an interesting thing to do. I showed up there and forgot the fact that they were going to strap me down to this gurney, and really they had nurses there, real honest to goodness people strapping me down, and I'm not good at being tied up or in an elevator or an airplane. And I started getting very uncomfortable. And the young actor next to me, he said, "Are you freaking out?" I said, "Just about." I didn't like that at all. And I was annoyed with myself because I kind of forgot that would be part of it. Okay. He said, "It's okay, I'm here. Everybody does when they first tie them up in this thing." And I realized I had to do the whole show that way. I said, "Okay, let's get this first shot and see how I do," because I have to get used to these kind of moments. And by the end of the show, I was fine being tied up the whole thing. But it was a funny moment. That sweet young man standing next to me must have seen a nice look on my face called terror. I was trying to be so, it's fine, thank you. That was the moment. Then I could do my work. But it was interesting, and thank you. very much. I appreciate it.
Over to Terry.
Gene Roddenberry's series, The Lieutenant.
Yes,
You guest starred on that, and
I did.
recently saw it. You look like you were having a lot of fun. Do you have any memories?
I'm always having a lot of fun. Why not? Yes. I don't have any deep memories of that particular. I would if I thought about it for a little moment further. But the point is, that's the whole point of it, isn't it? To embrace something fully and even have a, you know, when Nick talks about people on a set not talking to you, or I don't understand that, because I've done my work at home. I come in, I find out either what I'm doing is pretty damn good, which I think so by now, or there's something more to do here. And that's exciting as hell. So, you know, but I have enough preparation to know kind of what I'm doing, shape to it, and find out how that can move a little with the other person. It's an ephemeral art. In terms of film, the stage is an ephemeral art. You can't grab it. On film, or television, it's either, it's being, you know, frozen. But what are we freezing? And that's what's up to me. And that's kind of exciting, scary, and challenging, which is why I like it. And I still don't know why the camera works, but never mind. I don't know why the radio works. Thank you very much. Now the camera and the digital I don't know why anything works, but I like to be around it. If you think about it, I have no idea. It's been explained to me about 13 times and I don't get it. Does anybody here know why the radio works? Really, why? Come on, turn something on, the voice go, or the, never mind. I'm still astonished by the world is what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah? Very hush. It's good? We're all good? Any other crazy questions or simple? I can come up with a non-crazy. Yes, sweetheart, tell me.
So, one of the things I loved about Space 1999 was watching it as a young woman.
Yeah.
Was the portrayal of a woman in a leadership role, head of a department, medical department, as a professional, and that that was really terrific in the mid-70s, right? And
yes.
It's even terrific now. So
yep.
The you know, you've already mentioned that you've had experiences where women come up and tell you that they went into scientific fields, right?
Yes.
So that portrayal of that character and other characters that you've portrayed, women in professions in the future, it's terrific and marvelous, and that's not a question, but it is a wonderful leadership and goal for women, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you. You know, it's interesting, again, you know, where I grew up, girls were, you know, the whole time when I grew up, and it is longer than probably everybody in the room, but, you know, teachers said things to you. The math teacher said, why are you in this class? You're a girl. And they could say that to you. Well, I was in the class because I was on a college prep course, and I had to take the class. You think I liked it? No, I didn't like math ever. But I had to take that class, and that person didn't want me in that class. There were 2 girls in that class, and he spent the entire semester humiliating both of us, which is probably why I still can't do it. I don't know. But anyway, given that, it was common. I was telling somebody the other day, I had a typing teacher who threw the typing book at me and said, very nicely, you don't have to learn typing, you'll sit on the boss's lap. Oh, nobody thought that was odd. I did, because I was always very strong-willed. They used to call it stubborn and annoying. Those are the words that were used. If you were tall, which I was at the time, now so much any longer, they say, and it's everybody else gotten taller, I haven't gotten shorter. It was not an appreciated value. To be a smart girl in the Midwest was considered an annoyance. Shh, go in the corner and don't have an idea. And be cute. I was never cute. All the cute little girls in high school were cute. I was tall and annoying, I guess. I don't know. But it was a time that we weren't encouraged. I had a library teacher, a librarian told me when I was got my first library card, which I was very excited about. It had my name on it. I was a person. I had a library card. It was bright yellow. And she told me I couldn't read books over there. And I said, why not? She said, there were boys' books. So I went and read Dr. Doolittle. That was a boys' book. Why was it a boys' book? Because it was an adventure book. I mean, come on, what are we talking about? That was really the times, you know. So each generation has gotten a little better. Certainly now there's a lot of stuff going on that should have been going on a long time ago. That was considered acceptable. That's how you treated girls. We were supposed to be cute and kind, wear pink and be nice. Never get angry. Boys could get angry. Boys learn to be physical with each other by rolling around on the ground. That's some kind of activity I didn't understand. But they know how strong they are. We never were taught we didn't go to the gym. If you had a muscle, you'd be arrested. I mean, you're not supposed to have a muscle. You're supposed to be soft. And with my granddaughter's taking kickboxing. Yeah. And she dances, but she takes kickboxing. Nobody's going to mess with her or even consider it. So the times, I've seen a lot of change in all those times. And I'm so glad no teacher is ever going to tell another girl she can't take math. Or what are you doing here? Me? Why? Why can't I be here? You don't belong here. That's what they would tell you. So, you know, all those things are very, very changed. And yeah, I'm glad that somebody saw a strong woman, because that's what they wrote and that's what I played, and obviously it fit in pretty well. And you asked what I did as a backstory. I guess I came in with a certain amount of it. And I celebrate the changes, is what I'm saying.
Great role models.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And,
Way back.
this gentleman over here.
Well, he just stood up.
Oh, I know, he's the stand.
Oh, okay, I don't know. Who else?
Yeah.
Where?
Right
Where?
over here. And then
Hi.
in the back there.
Yes.
I may have read it, and if I have, my feeble mind has forgotten about it. But getting back to Space 1999, why did Barry leave after the first year?
Why did who leave?
Barry.
You know, I'd have to rethink that. I'm not sure. Maybe Nick will know. I don't know. He left out of the first year?
Yeah, yes, he did.
You know more than I know?
Well,
Maybe you'll
something
get...
that he said to me that he didn't like what Fred Freiberger was going to be doing, and he
Oh.
went to go play with the grown-ups.
Oh.
Sounds like it, doesn't it?
That could well be. I don't know that. I mean, I don't know that specifically, though it does not. Where are you from, by the way?
Alabama.
All right. I hear it, honey. Ain't no getting away from it. Gorgeous.
Yeah, Southerners are the only people that can make 3 syllables out of 2-letter words.
And Midwesterners can make 2 syllables out of 1 syllable word. I learned that the hard way when I went to New York, and I said here, and beer, and there, and where, and somebody told me they are 1-syllable words. And I said, what does that mean? Oh, you say them fast? It was very hard to say here. Because we bent that word, here.
So they don't have any R's.
Huh?
They don't have any R's.
We don't have any R's? We have a hard R, actually, in most of the speech. Anyway, yes, I understand that and had to deal with it. Very hard. Very long time ago. But I love all those sounds to this day, so it's nice to hear. Yes, sir, back there, standing up again.
Coming from a time where television had such quality in it,
Yeah.
the 60s and the 70s, what is your opinion right now of the entertainment industry with all the reality shows and, you know, such low quality? I'm just curious about your opinion on this.
Well, some of it is fantastic, and there's so much of it. because of all the different, we used to have those 3 networks, and you watch those 3 networks, and the whole country, certainly in America, did the same thing every Monday night. They watched Lucy, period. That's what you did. They watched Mission on Sunday night. It was the last fun thing before the work week started. So the entire country watched it. There was no discussion, and it still had one single sponsor for the whole hour. That's unheard of now. You're buying minutes a second. So it's just changed. In terms of trying to put one, everything, life changes. Everything changes. I came to California at the beginning of the television industry, and the studios were panicked, and Warner started making television. They were sure all the movies were finished. Well, movies weren't finished. Television, they all started making. So I've seen a lot of change along the way, and I can't evaluate one or the other. Change is actually meaning we're alive. If we don't change, we're in trouble. So whether or not the change is good, we should be a little better at evaluating it, not just in relation to television. But change is an aspect of just what must be. And I think it's important for the artists, the people, to have some say in what the change is, or have some opinion about it, and keep stirring the pot. Things change, don't they? We hate it, but we need it. It's crazy. Yeah.
I was wondering, you were mentioning growing up in your work ethic. What do you think of the stories some younger actresses of their woes when you listen to their problems compared to problems you had? You don't need that. You don't need this.
What do you mean, in terms of their work habits?
No, when they say, oh, we have this problem, oh, they want me to do this, or whatever.
Well, it depends what it is. There may be a logical reason, or may not be a logical reason. We still had people checking guns before you use them, because that's very important. Stunt people should be protected. Some things are out of the question, thank you very much. Some are not. Some are safe because they've done it. I don't know exactly what you mean. People complaining about what they have to do?
Yeah, like because you mentioned that they didn't think you needed math. It's like, now people, they can have math and all that stuff.
Oh, you mean at the schools?
Yeah, or like when you hear young actors in your talks and they say, oh, I got this problem. Like, your problem, they didn't want you to have math, they didn't want you to do stuff. It was very hard getting into the field. I was wondering what hardships do they have that you go, oh, that's nothing. When I was a kid, this kind of stuff.
I don't know. Some people walk to school in the snow forever, and other people live right next door to the school. People have triumphed over all kinds of circumstances, and either collapsed under them or prevailed. There's a certain kind of necessity to know how to prevail in various circumstances, or not, or say no, I can't do that, or don't want to do that. I don't know. It depends what's presented and who you are. That's part of knowing, hanging on to yourself for what it is. In terms of complaining, I say to any actor that complains, I sing them a little song. It came from a Disney movie. It's called Hi Diddly Dee, An Actor's Life for Me. Hi diddly do. We get up at 5, We sleep till 2:30. That's what it said. Or I asked them if anybody came in the nighttime and put a gun to their head and said, you've got to be an actor. They generally say no. And I said, well then, who raised your hand? You did, so shut up. Basically. Because I don't know why anybody's complaining about what they're doing and still doing it. If you're complaining, go, yeah, thank you. You might as well try something else. Yes.
I just had a question about the original.
About?
The original uniform that you wore.
Yes.
What were your initial impressions of it, and did that change after you had to wear it for a while?
Well, anything I wear, I have never taken a costume home from a show I've done, ever. Which is interesting, because a lot of people do. That's connected to that piece of thing, and that piece of thing is over for me. Will you stop hitting the mic, please? Thank you.
I actually meant the year one uniform changed quite a bit. Yours in particular.
They changed
by the
because they
second
wanted more
season.
decorum.
Right.
Freddie Freiberger wanted to jazz up a bit. Did that
you have
affect
any
me and throw me
input
into raving fits in the dressing room? No.
Did you have any input on the
I
uniform for
don't
the
think
second
so at
season?
that point.
No?
I don't think so. First of all, the first year I just trusted Rudy because, as I say, I've known him since we were two very young people. We met in the outer office of Diana Vreeland, who was a power in the fashion field in New York, and he brought his collection. It was very long, not very long, but a dear story about how we met. And he was an absolutely spectacular designer, and whatever he was going to do, I was happy with. The changes, they didn't disturb me one way or the other. Again, it's part of something that changes. It wasn't anything. The hard part for me was putting that thing over my head, being on the surface of the moon, because I don't like that. But I decided I was going to do that, so I did. Just like I decided to get on an airplane and come here. So it's about the same amount of excitement in my heart. Oh God, I shall die in that or in the airplane. But never mind, I'm not, and I'm here. So that was harder for me than worrying about any change. But I did it because I made a commitment. I did a play called Happy Days, which is Samuel Beckett's piece in which the woman is buried in the sand up to here. And the first, up to here, up to her waist in the first act, and then up to her neck in the second act. And we know it, there's no third act, we don't have to have it. I had to crawl under the stage to get into the set, which ended up being this big mound of dirt. It's one of the hardest plays in the literature for a woman. There are two roles that could put you away. And of course I did it. And once I decided I was going to do it, I did it. And it took me through the rehearsal to know that I was going to be, I had to hold on to two things underneath the set to stay still in that. And she talks for well, obviously I can do that. I'm good at that, I guess. For an hour and a half. The husband's up there in a hole on the stage, and he waves a flower and tips his hat and has three grunts, and it's an extraordinary piece of literature. And because it had the kind of thing I don't like, which is being strangled. Anybody here like that? Anyway, once I committed to doing it, I did it. And I loved doing it. And it was a major kind of triumph for me. I loved doing it. So why did I say that? Costume. All that came out of what costume? There I was wearing the earth, and here I was wearing a mask. One never knows what's going to be asked of you to wear. Thank you very much. Yeah.
The play you did, The Chairs.
Yes.
Some of the most incomprehensible, dense dialogue ever. It just, how do you learn, or how are you able to do a play like that with dialogue that doesn't seem to make sense to the audience?
And make sense out of it?
Yeah.
Probably because I understand not making sense. Somewhere in my brain, I get that. You know, first of all, it's written by a Hungarian, so Hungarian is one of the hardest languages. No, Romanian. He was Romanian, Ionesco. And it's one of the hardest languages there is, just in its own language. I found her just fascinating. I don't know about making sense, because to me she made sense. She absolutely made sense. And I loved playing that. That was great, great, extraordinary fun, as was the Beckett piece. So each had their own, I can learn lines. Can't do math, but I can learn lines. So I have a word brain, not a math brain, which is why I could do that. I could do it today. I can learn 80 pages of dialogue. I have no problem still learning a lot of words. I really like words. It's one of the reasons I'd like to know more about this world we're now in, that I don't know the language. of it is a whole other language. So my granddaughter, who's 10, is teaching me this language. I've told her I'm supposed to be teaching you stuff. How come you're teaching me? But she is, because she understands it. And I want to know because it's a language, and I don't like to be left out of the language. Not so much the phone itself, but all of its fascinating language, really, in itself. Has some interest to me. I don't want to not know it. Who was the English Lit major here, somebody said before? Oh,
Yasko.
yeah. So, you know, I have that kind of brain. So it's not hard. Some people have a hard time learning words. I don't. Lucky. It worked out well. What if I did? I have a hard time learning music, by the way. I don't have a music brain. And that's I suffer that loss. I feel bad about that. I wish I had more. I have to really struggle to learn music as opposed to knowing it right away. I don't have that immediacy. And that's annoying as hell for me. But it's best I can do. I'm laughing at myself, and that's swell. Yes?
Ms. Bain, you've been in so many iconic TV and movie roles, but not enough sometimes I think is said about My So-Called Life. And I wondered if you had any anecdotes about being on that show.
Sweet show. You know what you guys ought to know about that? It was a really good show, and it was well written, and the woman who wrote it later wrote The Wiz. The Wiz? With the Green Witch? Yeah. Wicked. Yeah, I knew something wasn't right. Wicked. She's a very talented woman who wrote it. And that she went on to write Wicked. So that's the kind of writer she was. I think it was the first time that anybody cast me as a grandmother. I wasn't yet a grandmother, and I thought that was such an odd thing. Got used to it since. I don't know anything further about that, except it was a good show. It was well written, and I attribute that mostly to the writer, who is fabulous. Really a wonderful writer. The first time I ever did a play, I did Long Day's Journey up in Seattle, and a young man said "Mom" to me. Well, I had two daughters. What was that voice saying "mother"? It was a male voice calling me "Mom." It was so odd. Oh, got used to those girl voices. Those little moments in life are kind of funny. Hard to explain, but you adjust, like everything else. But believe it or not, it was jarring as it could be. Oh, he's my son. Yeah, all good. Yeah, honey bun.
If you could choose a role, a part to play at all, which one would it be?
You know, it's kind of, there is one play I'd like to do that I've been trying to get a production of. But basically, that's very unusual for me. I've never planned ahead. I'm not an ahead planner. Everybody will tell you to have a successful career, which I've had. Plan ahead. But what I've had a gift for, and it's an odd gift, or it's my gift, I guess, is this shows up. Oh, what can I do with this? Uh-huh. Oh, I could do this and this with this. Things have shown up, and I've sort of known what to do with them. As opposed to thinking, oh, I hope this shows up. I have no idea what's going to show up. But I'm good at responding to things. And a lot of nice things have shown up is the only way I can tell you. I do want to do a production of a play that I dearly love. And oddly enough, so far I haven't been able to get it produced, but I'll see. I'll let you know if I do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, are you working on anything currently?
This second. Wait a minute. Let me think. Do I have anything? Actually, I'm having a meeting on something in a week that's a big project. I don't know what'll happen with it, so I can't tell you. And I did the picture with Sophia, which I can't talk about. And other than that, what can I tell you? I'm directing something at the Actors Studio. It's a second go at a play. It's a very, very interesting play. It takes place in 17th century England. It is about the Lamb family, Mary Lamb and her brother. There's always something cooking, so but I can't tell you specifically about much of it at the moment. It'll show up. Somebody I know will know before I know. And I'll find out, why did she know that? It just happened yesterday. You know, and it's true. I don't know anybody quite like you, darling. It's true. And I guess you all hear from her. I don't know. Yeah. See, that's the most amazing thing to me. Totally amazing. So she'll know. Yeah.
I'll ask Anita.
Yeah. Yes.
Barbara, I had a lovely chat with Juliet.
Yes.
At a horror convention, and I had her sign my Space 1999 autograph book, which had all the cast signed, and she just paged through it and looked at all the different names. So it brought to mind, like that time you were saying you got off of filming at 5 or 6 in the afternoon, and you were able to spend time with your family. So can you elaborate a little bit more? What was it like, just like, you know, raising the kids and being able to come home, at a set time every day?
Well, you know, first of all, Martin and I didn't have to say, what did you do today, darling? Because we knew. So that saved that conversation. That was good. The kids, you know, it's raising kids. What happened at school, they'll tell you or they won't, or this one's mad at this one. You hear all whatever it is, and you kind of try to keep an ear for anything fairly serious going on. It's juggling. It's juggling everything. And of course, some things fall through the cracks, and you, in retrospect, consider it and think about it and why we might have done that differently or not. We had a very interesting situation because my kids did not like being driven to school in a Rolls Royce. So I said to them, well, you can walk to school, you can take a bus, you can, I gave them various options. Ray, or Roy, as we called him, or he called himself, he can drop you off 3 blocks ahead of time. Or check out all the Daimlers and Benzes in front of that school. And don't feel so bad. So take your pick. Because it was different for them. They were worried about it. They did say things like, when we first got there, they asked us, talk about kids and a situation that's, see, in Beverly Hills, everybody's involved somehow in the industry, so it was usual for them. This was not. And they were in a new place. So they said, can we have a meeting? We said, sure. And they asked us not to come to school for the first bunch of time till they made friends. They didn't want their friends to become friends because we were on television. So they were pretty smart. So we said, okay, we won't come to school, and we didn't. And then there were other ramifications about that. Most of their friends were kids from the embassy, the oil field, or the banking field, because we were in this American School of London. And the oily, my kids call them oily bankers, any banker here. The kids were kind of used to, these were different things that happened. Those kids were used to being posted to different places. So by the end of the year, they kind of pull away from friendships because they knew they were moving. And my kids weren't used to that. And they began figuring it out. It was how to continue friendship when somebody was posted to some other place. Or how to be friends with a child who was very, very white, blonde-haired, who was afraid to walk down the street because they had just been coming from an Arab country where she couldn't go out of the compound without people trying to grab her hair. Who had met a child like that? We hadn't before, and she became a friend of mine. So there are these different elements that affected the kids that you had to think about, which you didn't think about at home at all. You had other things to think about. Anyway, so those were kind of fascinating things to consider at the time. How to make them, you know, they want to drive in their Rolls and they want to walk to school, that's up to you. So London was very safe at the time. Nobody had a gun. They did not have guns on the streets. Thank you. My kids had never seen an armed person standing on the street. My kids were never, the IRA was active there. So they came home one day and said they were evacuated from the school. Ooh, what's that? We hadn't been evacuated anywhere. And I said, where'd they take you? And they said, to the temple down the street. I said, oh, great. elements always that were, and those were some things, the excitement of being in another place, the excitement of having, if you had the weekend, you could go to France in 2.5 seconds. The kids went to school trips to Mont Saint Michel, huh? I mean, you don't do that. Beverly Hills, we went to the Wonder Bread factory. I'm serious. So they had exposure. We went to Greece because they had a holiday. And it was both the Eastern and our Easter holiday at the same time. And we could take them there. It was so fast to get there. Now, I was a kid in the Midwest with black and white pictures of ancient Greece, right? And I could take my kids to Greece to see, wow, the Acropolis, all this stuff. And by the way, I have a hot tip. If you go to Greece, we happened to come there when the Acropolis was on strike. The guys, the people, the guards. I think they were mostly men too. So for about 2 or 3 days, we couldn't get up there. And then I said, wait a minute. This is about the 3rd time I was there, but the kids had never. I said, wait a minute. There must be a way. I'm not leaving this place until we can go up to the Acropolis. Okay, what do? We pay somebody. A little money will do it. We went up at dawn. Now, if you're ever in Athens, find a way to go up there at dawn. There wasn't a soul up there. The dawn came up on, there's nothing to say further. Just try to get up there at dawn. It just takes a few bucks. I mean it. There wasn't a person. As we left, people were starting to come up. But to see the sunrise over that place, other than this morning when you sang happy birthday, I'd cry again. But it was so beautiful. So there were so many ancillary things that were unexpected and very exciting. My younger daughter said, when I went up to tell her, would you like to go to London? She said, do I have a choice? What a smart kid. We had all those little adjustments to make. Susie could graduate with her graduating class. She said, I'll go if I don't have to wear a uniform. What about the school? So there were, you dealt with it was fun. It was an adventure. And then it became even more so just living there and observing people. And it's very interesting when you're living in another country for any length of time as opposed to just touring there. You really get a viewpoint that's very different and exciting to see how people are living in another place. And of course you didn't have to, even though there's some phrases that were strange, the language is ours, so it was easy to live there. That made it easy. I'd lived in Rome for 1.5 years. I had to learn Italian. It wasn't so easy at first. But, so all those, I have nothing but joy in all those experiences that I've had a chance to have. I've lived in all kinds of wonderful places. Who's going to argue with that? Anybody? No. Get a chance to do all that? So, I don't know that I answered any of that question. By the way. Would you stop me? Is it trying to stop me? Okay. Finished? Enough of this nonsense? But anyway.